Boa tarde, povo da quarentena. Sim, Hugo Medeiros e hoje eu estou feliz, estou muito feliz, estou animado, porque hoje simplesmente a gente vai ter uma quarentena sessions, simplesmente com um dos melhores guitarristas vivos. Cara, tô falando de Gregg Koch. E quem falou que ele é um dos melhores guitarristas do mundo fui eu? Não! Na verdade, sim, eu também falei. Mas alguém que realmente presta, que realmente vale a pena escutar, quem falou foi, na verdade, foram Joe Bonamassa e Steve Vai. Galera, esses dois simplesmente falaram que Gregg Koch é o melhor guitarrista da atualidade. Então, preparem-se, porque vocês verão um monstro da guitarra hoje. Gregg Koch é um animal tocando. Eu tenho que ser muito sincero, eu descobri o Gregg Koch há mais ou menos um mês, no início dessa quarentena. Eu não sei porquê. Eu acho que foi porque eu comecei a adicionar todo mundo, né? Todo mundo que estava na lista do Igor Prado. Adicionei. E tava lá uma vez uma live em vermelhinho, isso 2 da manhã. Eu cliquei e era esse cara tocando uma guitarra absurda. Eu simplesmente, quando eu o vi tocando, eu fiz assim. O cara é um monstro. Se vocês não estão acreditando em mim, se vocês ainda não conhecem o Gregg Koch, simplesmente, sério, papo reto, fiquem aqui, porque o Gregg Koch é um animal. Vocês não têm ideia do que toca o Gregg Koch. A Fender, inclusive, listou ele no top 10 dos 10 maiores guitarristas desconhecidos ou anônimos, como queiro, dependendo da tradução, né? Cara, numa boa, o Mr. Gregg Koch just entered our live, so I'm gonna put you live in a few seconds, Mr. Koch. I'm just inviting some friends here. Então, rapaziada, Gregg Koch é um animal, cara. Vocês vão ver hoje. E o cara, além de ser um animal tocando, é super simpático, é um cara brincalhão pra caramba. Toda hora ele fica fazendo piada, fica sacaneando quem tá entrevistando ele, ou seja, vocês vão rir muito hoje, mas muito hoje. Deixa eu chamar aqui. Enio. I'll be. I'll call you in a few seconds, Mr. Koch. I'm just inviting some friends here. I'm calling. Oh.
Hey,
Hey, what's up, Mr. Koch?
what? Not much. I'm just walking through my house. I'm looking for my earphones. I had them here somewhere.
That's okay.
What are you doing?
I'm in quarantine, so I have one daughter and 2 dogs and a wife.
Ah, yes. I'm in quarantine with my wife, 2 sons, and daughter. My other daughter is out in Vermont, so she's kind of hanging out there. But we got the rest of us home here, hanging out, causing trouble. I have my earphones here somewhere, but I don't think I'm going to need them, so we're good.
Yeah,
We are
very
good. So what's happening?
What's happening? We're in quarantine. I'm in Brazil, so I'm fucked.
Sweet. I have not yet been to Brazil. I've been to many different places throughout the world. South America has eluded me thus far. I would very much like to come to Brazil to rock people's brains and to feast on the indigenous cuisine.
Yes, we have to change this. We have to bring you here to. You have to know that terrific chaos that we live here.
Yes. Chaos in Brazil. I'm all for it. We got a little bit of chaos on our hands here back at home too, but hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah. So let me present you in Portuguese, then I'll come back to speak in English, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Galera, eu tô aqui com o Gregg Koch. O cara é um animal, o cara é um monstro, o cara toca pra caralho. Eu tô muito feliz de estar entrevistando ele. Vou começar a falar inglês, mas enfim, dá pra entender. So, I was saying to Brazilian audience that we don't have that expression in English, but in Portuguese, it's like kick-ass. You're a monster on the guitar. You're a monster. Yes, you're insane on the guitar, man.
Well, thank you. I do what I can.
Yeah. So, I have to be honest. I knew you about a month ago in the beginning of this quarantine. I saw you on an Instagram live. Then you're playing like, ah! Then my reaction was just, man, you're insane.
Well, thank you. I do what I can. I've been at it for a little while now, so.
So, Mr. Koch, thank you so much for being here with me, with all the Brazilian pub audience. Thank you so much for your kindness and attention.
My pleasure. No problemo.
Thank you. So, Joe Bonamassa, Steve Vai, two monsters, two kick-ass guitar players, and both already say that you're the biggest guitar player today. What can you tell about it?
I don't know. You know, it's very flattering that, you know, people who are known as being, you know, the best of the best as far as what they do, they consider you to be, you know, great. That's, I mean, it's flattering. It's awesome. I've just always, you know, I play because I enjoy doing it. You know, being in quarantine for me is kind of not really that different. Because you know, I to be told I have to stay in the house and not go anywhere and play guitar, no problem. So I just play a lot. I enjoy practicing. I enjoy learning new things. I've always never really wanted to sound like somebody else or be forced to be one kind of a guitar player. I always just kind of wanted to do my own thing. And but, you know, I came from a family. I was the youngest of 7 kids, and you know, my dad was a lawyer and very successful, and so the idea of his son being a musician was not something that really thrilled him. So I kind of had that instilled, that the work ethic of having to work really hard if you want to do, you know, be successful. And
Yes.
you know, what I deem successful now versus what I thought was going to be successful when I was younger are different things. But to me, successful is that you can do what you enjoy and make a living and not be a slave to it or anybody else. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yes, totally.
Slave, yes. But I mean, you know, be under restrictions to have to do certain things in order to make a living. And so I'm pretty, I have a pretty flexible schedule. I can pretty much say and play whatever I want. You know, I'm not a millionaire by any stretch, but I do all right, you know, so it's all good.
I totally agree with you, because I'm a musical critic, okay, but I'm a teacher. I'm a geography teacher of a junior high.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I will die poor, but that's okay. I'm happy.
Being happy is important. Happy is, you know, you have to have a balance. And there's a lot of people that construe or think that, you know, success is, you know, success at all costs, you know, clawing and scratching and do whatever they can to be, you know, more famous or this, that, the next thing. And usually, not everyone, but most of the people that have that attitude end up miserable, you know, and they have, you know, all kinds of personal problems, and a lot of them crash and burn and all that kind of stuff. But to me, having a good balance of all of the above is really what keeps you sane and happy, really. And so far, so good.
Yes. At the end, we're all gonna eat it by the worms.
That's exactly correct. We're all going to be food for worms.
Yes. Rich and poor guy.
That's right. The same.
Yes. So, this is Mr. Gregg Koch, the genius, the monster, the kick-ass guitar player, and I am just an asshole from Brazil speaking with the monster, the great Gregg Koch. So,
well, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you, man. Thank you, because Brazilian guitar lovers love your sounds. Love your sounds.
Thank you. I'd love to come to Brazil. Hopefully, when all of this madness is over, I can get down there somehow.
Please. So let's begin in the beginning. How was your first contact with the music? I mean, as a kid.
I was always just unusually drawn to music. You know, as I said before, I was the youngest of 7 kids, and I had to room with my brother, who was the oldest. So because there were 5 girls in between us, so I roomed with my brother, and I was exposed to all of his records. So he was listening to Hendrix and Cream and you know, the Beatles and Grand Funk Railroad and Steve Miller and Joe Walsh and all these people. And so that was the music I was exposed to at a very early age. And for some reason, I became fascinated with music very early on, and I always wanted to play guitar. My mom is a good piano player, and she kind of taught me like boogie woogie piano parts. So I knew like a 12-bar blues form when I was pretty young. But I didn't finally get my hands on a guitar until I was about 12. But by that time, I was kind of a music nerd in terms of I knew, you know, who played in what band and the history of kind of British rock and blues and all these sounds were in my head. It's just that now I finally had an instrument to get my hands on, and I learned pretty fast. Let's put it that way. I did my first gig within 9 months, and just kind of went from there. So it came to me pretty fast.
Yeah, nice. You just told Cream and all the dinosaurs of rock and roll.
Right.
I believe Hendrix is your major influence.
I was probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years old when I started to listen to Hendrix. And it was kind of funny because I don't know how I discovered him or how I made the connection. I was just digging through my brother's records. And I remember them playing one of the records when I was really young. But all of a sudden it all registered, and I started listening to these records. And then my sister said, well, you know, he's dead. I mean, what? I didn't even know. I mean, it seemed impossible to even imagine that such a god could die. You know what I mean? So, but I was just drawn to, I mean, he just seemed, in addition to writing this crazy music and having these otherworldly guitar skills, he just seemed like the coolest individual to ever walk the earth. So that was really kind of the beginning for me. And there was always, I mean, even to this day, I still listen to Hendrix and we'll sit down and there's always something new to kind of learn. He just had such a weird, you know, a complex style of playing simple music. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I mean, the chord structures were not all of that advanced, but just everything that he would do in that context was about as much as you could do with that limited harmonic knowledge. He just did all kinds of crazy stuff, and I still am a huge fan.
I've already interviewed Bill Cobbin, the drummer player, you know? Bill Cobbin.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He told me Jimi Hendrix was the biggest groovy man in the music.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah. Besides Hendrix and Cream and all that dinosaurs, I listen a lot of jazz in your music. Did jazz also influence your musical background?
It did. I guess early on, I liked the bluesier jazz stuff. There was a George Benson record I had when I was in high school that was called I Got a Woman and Some Blues. And it was kind of a compilation of some of the bluesier stuff that he did. You know, there was like straight 12-bar blues, and then there was like Song for My Father on there and things like kind of more blues-based jazz stuff. So I listened to that quite a bit, and I always played in jazz band in high school. And then I did go to school for music with it was a degree in jazz guitar. So, but I always had kind of a strange relationship with jazz in back then, because I wasn't real comfortable with the academic aspect of jazz, especially horn players and piano players that are more traditional jazz players. They don't, they say, they refer to rock and roll as, anything between the Sex Pistols and Yes, it's all the same to them. It's rock and roll. And obviously we know that no, there's all kinds of different stuff in the genre of rock and blues and funk and R&B and all that other kind of stuff, a very nuanced stuff. And to them, it was just kind of a black and white way of thinking. And that kind of turned me off. So it wasn't, I always had an aspect of jazz to my playing, but as I got older and got away from an academic kind of view of jazz and just loved the music for what it was, that's when I really kind of became more comfortable with it and enjoyed it. And I wanted to add an aspect to it that wasn't to my playing with the jazz stuff that didn't sound too stock. There's a lot of times, if you really to my ears, if you really bury yourself in the genre, you play a lot of all the jazz standards and all the different keys. There are exceptions, but it's more about reharmonizing these old standards and playing them in a new way, versus I was always the idea of, I want to play new music of my own. You know what I mean? I didn't want to achieve this massive technical skill of which I could then reimagine all these old standards. That didn't really appeal to me. So, but at the same token, I do love to listen to certain jazz things even to this day, probably more now than ever. But it all kind of has more of a bluesy flair to it. Everything I like is more groove oriented and bluesy, as opposed to like being more like free jazz and out there. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. Yes, a little bit more Herbie Hancock, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. I love if I'm listening to older stuff. I love Horace Silver. I've been listening, some Horace Silver stuff I love to listen to. I love Ahmad Jamal. That's cool stuff. That live at that hotel, I can't remember the name of that. I'm sure somebody can correct me. It's a hotel in Chicago he played at. His famous live record, which is fantastic. So that stuff. I love Grant Green as guitar players. Grant Green, Kenny Burrell. It took me a while to come around to Pat Metheny, believe it or not, only because it was when I was younger, it just seemed too pastel to me for whatever reason. But now I love it. So I like to listen to Pat Metheny, especially the stuff with Jocko. But I like Mike Stern, John Scofield, people like that.
I'm proud because I have a picture with John Scofield.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He's one of my. I finally got to meet him a year ago at this music event. Finally got to just spend a little bit of time with him. But yeah, he's one of my all-time faves. Yeah, because he's really got that bluesy feel, but with a very extensive harmonic knowledge. So he never gets too esoteric. You know what I mean? He can, but it's mostly it's groove oriented, cool, blues drenched, jazzy funk is my favorite part.
There's
Roy Buchanan, of course. Roy Buchanan, absolutely.
Roy Buchanan, please.
I got into Roy Buchanan later on. Actually, most of the stuff I was influenced by was stuff that was in my my brother's record collection, right? So he didn't have any Roy Buchanan. So I found out about Roy Buchanan. I missed the whole first round of Roy stuff, and got it. My first exposure to him really was a record he put out called When a Guitar Plays a Blues. That was when he was on Alligator Records. This is like 1982, 1983. I was in high school. I heard that record, and I was like, oh, my God, what is this? Because I was playing a Telecaster at that time. And so I kind of fumbled my way through a lot of the same techniques just because of the nature of the instrument. And then I started listening to Roy. I was like, oh, my God. And then I heard Livestock, his live record from the mid-'70s, and my mind was blown. And then I became like a total Roy fanatic, really. But really not until later, because there was it was just strange how I'll hear somebody and I'll like it, and I'll be like, that's cool. But I go in these little weird circle things where all of a sudden I'll hear something at the right time and I'll get totally fanatical about it. I'll listen to all the records. I'll delve into it. I'll kind of get into the person's mindset and get into their vibratos and all their different cool things that I hear that I would like to kind of learn from. And then I'll move on. And that finally happened with Roy Buchanan and myself, probably where I really delved deep, probably around 20 years ago or so. And then it just became ingrained. Him and Danny Gatton. I mean, I was exposed to Roy Buchanan first, but then I was really into Danny Gatton as well. But it's kind of one of these things where I'll get immersed in these styles and these ways of playing. But then I'll get away from it and I don't want to hear it for a while, or it'll be too much for me, and I'll go, okay, I don't want to do the chicken picket thing now. Or I'll leave that on kind of autopilot, and I'm going to go to hear the blues land a little bit more. Or now I'm into this jazz stuff. So I kind of bounce around to the stuff that influences me at the time, but luckily I don't forget the other stuff in the meantime. So it all kind of comes together. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's one thing I will say, is that for whatever reason, I was blessed with a pretty good memory. I don't have total recall, but I certainly seem to remember more than I don't. So it's all in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. 90 Feet Underground is a huge blues and rock historian, professor. She knows about everything about rock and blues. She's saying just Roy Buchanan joined space rock with blues.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I always see.
What do we think? I see this question here. Is that, Greg, what do you think about Lonnie Mack?
Yes.
I was a huge Lonnie Mack fan. As a matter of fact, I want to say we did 3 or 4 shows with Lonnie back in the day, and I sat in with him once. The last time we played together, he had invited me to sit in, and I sat in with him, and we kind of kept in contact over the years through his website. His wife managed his website, and I always remember her saying, "Lonnie says hello, and his nickname for you is the guitar player from hell." So I thought, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was a big Lonnie Mack fan. And it was kind of weird because I knew of, again, it's just kind of the weird thing of how I got influenced by stuff. I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan before I heard Lonnie Mack, which doesn't really make sense. But again, I wasn't exposed to those records. My brother didn't have those records. No one I knew had those records. So I got into Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I heard tunes like Scuttlebutt. And then he did that record with Lonnie Mack. And I was like, who's this guy? And I remember even before that record came out with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Lonnie Mack's record was called Strike Like Lightning. And I think Stevie Ray produced it and he played on it. But there was this older drummer guy who had played with a whole bunch of different famous people who had moved back to my hometown. And we were jamming one day. He's like, "Man, you sound a lot like Lonnie Mack." And I go, "Lonnie Mack?" And he's like, "Yeah, you should really listen to more Lonnie Mack because it's a very similar style." So then I went back and I listened to all that stuff. And so I got into it kind of backward. But that happens.
We were saying about jazz. There's one guy, one saxophone player that remembers me a lot of your speaking style. That's Rasan. Roland Rasan Kirk.
Yeah, Rasan Roland Kirk. Yeah, I love.
Yeah, Rasan Roland Kirk. Yes.
Yeah.
He's.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I do
Yes.
listen to Roland Kirk. Absolutely.
Your picking is very similar of his.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment. Absolutely. Thank you.
I always see your Instagram lives and Facebook lives. The most common question is, how do you get that tone from your guitar?
It's pretty. There's not a whole lot going on. I mean, it's. I don't use many effects, and that's not because I used to use a pedal board, but I never really have all that many effects on at once. You know what I mean? It's like I might like little flavors here and there, but I don't have a lot of stuff on at the same time. So I usually have a nice clean tone with reverb, and then I like to have a little more meaty clean, which I might do with the little button on my guitar, or I have a clean boost on my Gristle King pedal if I'm using that pedal, or if I'm just going straight into the amp. I got a clean sound. I got an overdrive sound that I set to be a little overdriven, and then there's overdrive boost above that, and then I've got one more gain above that. So I keep the EQ pretty flat. You know, whether I'm playing someone else's amp where I'm using a pedal in front of it, I just have a way of being able to dial it in that sounds like me, but there's not a whole lot to it. EQ is usually pretty flat, and I like a clean sound, a gain with not a ton of. I like an overdrive, but not like a turbo overdrive. I find that too much gain masks all the cool kind of left-hand nuanced phrasing stuff that I like to do. So I don't usually like to have a ton of gain. Every now and again, I'll put on the third gain stage that I have on my amp, but it's more of a fuzz than a distortion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the fuzz sings a little bit more and has a little more of a, I don't know, it's a little bit more dynamically sensitive than just like a really saturated overdrive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's pretty basic, really. I mean, it's just, you know, after a while, you're able to get your sound out of whatever really guitar or amp that you're playing. Obviously, there's amps and guitars that, like, especially now with my signature guitar and my signature amp, it's really got all the stuff that I prefer. But if I borrowed a guitar and an amp and an overdrive pedal, I'd find a way to make it sound good. You know what I mean? That's just because you're just used to doing it.
You just talk about your signature guitar and your amp, Koch amp.
Yeah.
Could you talk about both, please?
Yeah, well, the amp actually came first. Well, kind of. I mean, I did the pickups with Fishman first. I think that was my first signature, you know, thing that I was doing, other than, of course, my Gristle King pedals, which I had done for years. But what I wanted out of the pickups is I wanted, I wanted pickups that really sounded unbelievable, but that were noise free and had a second voice that in case in the heat of battle, I could press a button and just get something a little bit more. And that's what the pickups turned out to be. I also, I always would do stuff on my guitars. Like, I don't like losing high end when I turn down the volume on my volume control. And so, Reverend always does this with their guitars anyways. They put that treble bleed thing in, so when you turn down the volume, you don't lose any high end. So my Fishman pickups do that regardless. So you don't lose any high end when you turn down the volume. So the pickups were set. And then I had them in a Tele, a custom shop Telecaster. And I had known the Fender guys for years. I'd obviously done stuff for Fender for about 15 years. And they got a new owner. And when the new owners took over, there was kind of a cleaning of the house. And no one really reached out to me to do more stuff. And it was just kind of weird. And I did talk to them about, hey, why don't we do a guitar with these pickups in it, because I knew it would be successful, but they're like, oh no, we got our own. I'm like, whatever. So I didn't really have a signature guitar deal at that point. I had pickups, right? So then while I was at Music Messe in Germany for Fishman, talking about the pickups and playing over there for them, the Koch amplifier people were there, and we started talking, and I tried one of their amps and I really liked it. And then they were fans of mine. And I said, wouldn't it be kind of funny if we worked together? So I started playing one of their amps, and then I gave them a recipe for a signature amp and told them what I wanted. And Dolph Koch knocked it out of the park. It sounded unbelievable. So we came up with this amp. They said, well, what should we call it? I said, let's call it the Gregg. And so that's what we did. So there's a combo that's 2 10s, and it has harmonic vibrato on it, and it's got a great clean sound. It's got a 3-button reverb, 3-control reverb, so it's more like the old kind of Fender reverb tank type of, it's got the tone, the volume, and the dwell on it, so you can really dial in this luscious verb. And it's 50 watts, and I like 2 10-inch speakers because I always was a fan of Vibroluxes. And so that amp came out a couple of years ago, and that's really all I've been using. And then in between that time period of coming out with the pickups, getting the amp going, I knew the guys from Reverend for years. A lot of times Ken Haas, the owner of Reverend, would come out to Wildwood and we'd do videos together. And this is going on for years. And we were buddies. And then one day he's like, hey, you know what? If you'd ever want to do a guitar, I'd be up for it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. And then he actually flew me to Toledo to do some videos with them on some other guitars. And then we just hatched the idea, well, what if we tried this thing? And we did it. And it's, man, I'll tell you what, it's that guitar is something else. So now there's going to be a new version in addition to the current one. There's going to be one that's we were supposed to come out at Summer NAMM, but it's going to come out this fall, and it's a set neck version of the other one. It's going to be Gibson scale, ebony fingerboard, but with new signature P90s that I'm coming out with Fishman, and then it's going to have a Bigsby on it as well. So that'll be out this fall.
Yes, we were talking about your Reverend signature guitar, but besides your guitar, your signature guitar, is Stratocaster your favorite guitar?
No, Tellys are my favorite. You know, I always liked the idea of a Strat. I always wanted a Strat, you know, because obviously being a huge Hendrix fan. When I was in high school, I wanted to get a Strat. They weren't really making American Strats at that point. There was like a lapse between 1980 and like 83 where you couldn't really get a decent, you know, kind of an American Strat. A guitar teacher of mine was selling a Telecaster. And at that time, I just wanted the neck pickup sound of a Fender guitar. That was my favorite sound, and I wanted it. And my guitar teacher was selling the 68 Telecaster, and I got it for like $400. And that was my main guitar for years. And I got so used to the sound of the pickups on a Telecaster that when I finally got my hands on a Strat, I didn't like it as much in terms of I like the wimpy sound of a Tele neck pickup, and I like the balls of the Tele bridge pickup. You got three sounds on a Tele, and they're all great. But Strats, it's like, you know, you got to mess around in order to get them to stay in tune. Number one, for all the positions to sound good. But I did force myself to play nothing but Strats a few years later, and there was a good decade there where all I played mostly was Strats on the road. I would always use Tellies in the studio for various different things, but my main gigging guitar was a Strat for years. And then the Telly started to creep back in, and then I just went completely Telly because I just got sick and tired of messing around with the Strats. Getting them to stay in tune drove me insane. Because I'm not a real tinkerer on guitars. I'm not into constantly tweaking it and all that kind of stuff. I just want to get it out of its case when I want to play it. I want to change the strings. I want it to work. I don't want to have to be like frickin' MacGyver in order to make the thing stay in tune. So I switched to Telly. I still love the sound of a Strat, and actually because I worked with Fishman on voicing those Strat pickups. Those are to me the best sounding Strat pickups there are, because you put them on a guitar and all 5 positions of the toggle switch sound fantastic, and they're noise free, and it's just kick ass. So it's been more fun for me now to play a Strat. So and now that I've been on quarantine and kind of able to kind of have fun with a bunch of my different guitars, I've been playing a lot of the Strat lately, and I think I'll start gigging with one again. Not just on a couple tunes a night, but there are certain things that a Strat lends itself for that I'll probably end up using again.
Yes. Dan Band Blues is a Brazilian musician. He is watching us here. He's asking if the new Gregg Koch signature guitar will be in Tele shape.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same body shape. So it's that, slightly larger Tele shape with the middle section that's raised like a Firebird. But it's going to be set neck instead of a bolt-on, and then Gibson scale as opposed to Fender scale.
How do you define chicken picking?
Well, it's interesting. I had someone ask me to do one of these, the 10 records that shaped your life type of thing, and post it on Facebook. I hate that shit, by the way. But I got guilted into doing it because I don't like lists, because, you know, there's no best of anything. And, you know, you always forget to put stuff on stuff. And then, you know, anyway, so I ended up having to think about the stuff that influenced me as far as the chicken picking was concerned. And really it was initially Mark Knopfler and actually Jeff Beck. And I even forgot to put this list or these albums on my list because I got preoccupied by other stuff. But I heard Mark Knopfler do chicken picking, obviously with Dire Straits. And I didn't actually own the first Dire Straits record. The first Dire Straits record that I owned was Making Movies. So I had that on a cassette tape. So I would listen to the cassette tape and try to figure out how to do the chicken picking. Around the same time, there was a Jeff Beck record that came out called There and Back. And there was a tune on There and Back where Jeff Beck's playing a clean Strat sound and he's doing and he's doing chicken picking. And that's really where I learned it, was from as I scouring my brain to try to remember this shit. It was really from those two records. And then I got into Albert Lee around the same time. And also Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers. He would do these fiddle licks. And I would start to chicken pick those Dickie Betts licks.
Interesting.
And so I started getting into it from that point of view. And then I started, as I said, then I got into Roy Buchanan and James Burton and, you know, Ray Flack was a guitar player I was into that played with Ricky Skaggs. Steve Morse, he did which is so funny. We used to do shows with the Steve Morse Band all the time, and then the Dixie Dregs. And I got to be really good friends with T. Lavitz, and he played on a bunch of my records. And also Rod Morgenstein, the drummer. But Steve Morse never heard me play in all these years that we would do this stuff until the last gig I ever did with him. He saw the band, right? And I would close with Spank It and do all my stuff. And I came backstage, and he's like, show me how to do that chicken thing. And I looked at it, I was like, dude, I stole this shit from you. But the way he did chicken picking and the way that I did it was different. So I remember I kind of showed him how I was doing it. And there's basically 3 different ways that I do it. I do it with the thumb and first finger, a la Mark Knopfler. And then there's the pick and finger version, which is more the Roy Buchanan approach and Albert Lee and those guys. And then there's a version of it where I just choke up on the pick and I do these pinch harmonics. I do alternate picking with my right hand, and then every other note is kind of a muted pinch harmonic. And when you play it that way, it sounds, it's a different version of chicken picking. So I do those 3 different versions. I mean, there's other ways of just really any kind of playing that involves a real definite mute followed by a kind of a popped note kind of is chicken picking. That's really the basic deal, is hitting a pronounced muted note and then actually like popping the string, whether you're picking it up just a little bit, letting it snap back down, or plucking it just a little harder, or whatever the case may be. So that's basically it.
I'm not a musician, please. I'm a completely deaf ear. But I guess that chicken picking, there's a lot of country picking,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, I didn't grow up listening to much country, and I especially nowadays, I can't listen to it. I just can't. It's just country radio to me it's just something I don't enjoy. So most of the stuff I got was from, as I said, the influence. I mean, I like the old Western swing stuff. I was a big Jimmy Bryant fan. Jimmy Bryant and Speedy West. There's some old Merle Haggard stuff I enjoyed listening to. Johnny Cash.
Merle Travis.
Merle Travis, of course. Jerry Reed. Lots of Chet Atkins. And stuff like that. You know, not so much some of these other guys. I didn't really get into Grady Tate, I didn't have the records. And there were some other more Western swing oriented guys, which was all cool stuff. But again, I only liked it as a seasoning to my other stuff. So it's like I liked adding this country stuff and making it more kind of funky. I thought that was funny. So I kind of think of myself as more as a funky cowboy, really, than a, you know, tobacco chewing, you know, that kind of thing.
You have one album, plays well with the others. That's
Yes.
amazing. Could you talk about it?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. You know, I've had various different bands over the years, and you know, personnel come and go for whatever reason, you know, and then I would tour with various different bands. A lot of times bands were based on who had flexible schedules and could tour, you know. So when I was doing the Plays Well with Others thing, it kind of came together where I had someone who had a little bit of money wanted to back me doing a project and lend me some money to do stuff. And my idea was to do a blues record and have various different vocalists on it, guest vocalists and guest musicians. So, but basically happened was I was on a walk in my neighborhood and I ran across this songwriter guy that I know who's like a prolific lyricist. And at that time, I wasn't really into writing words. I mean, there's been different times where I'm into singing and I'm into writing words, and then, which I am kind of now again into. But during this particular period, I didn't feel like singing. I didn't feel like writing any words. I just wanted to write music, and I wanted somebody else to write the lyrics, and I didn't want to sing. So we started writing songs together, and it was like, we wrote like 70 songs in 3 months. It was insane. So we wrote all these songs, and then I was going to do a record with all these special guests. Well, I realized that getting somebody else to sing the songs was a little more difficult than I had planned. People have no problem playing on records, but when they want to lend their voice to something, that's when management and record companies start saying, we don't want you to do that. So then it ended up being my buddy John Seeger, who wrote all the words to these songs. He ended up singing all of the stuff, with the exception of one song my buddy Paul Barrere from Little Feat sang. And then I had invited Robin Ford to play on the record, and he agreed. He came in town and played on three of the tunes. My buddy Roscoe Beck played bass. My buddy Brandon Temple from Austin, Texas, he played drums. John Cleary from New Orleans played a tune, on a tune. And then Paul Barrere from Little Feat came in and played on, I think, 4 songs and sang the one. So it all turned out kind of cool. I mean, we've got enough tunes to do another record like that. It's just, I got, the next project came along and off we went. But I enjoyed doing it. I liked the tunes. I enjoyed working with all those different people. And it was a lot of fun. That was a few years ago now. I think it was 2013. No, Bonamassa was on it. Yeah, Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah, Bonamassa also. I have a history with Robin Ford. I was in my first international festival, like a media, and hey, Mr. Ford, can we do an interview? He looked at me and went away.
Robin has always been a sweetheart to me. We've always gotten along great, but that's not the first time I've heard a story like that. Let's put it that way.
But I love his music.
Yes. Yeah.
Steve is in, I don't know the name, but it's the middle name, but Steve is saying one tradition Gregg is keeping alive is the family band, because your son, Dylan, is the drummer.
He is. Well, you know, it was interesting because he, I think the first time he sat in with my band was when he was about 16 years old. We were playing at a kind of a hometown festival, and he was hanging out with his kind of a wild child. He was out with his wild high school friends, and they stopped by the gig, and he had been taking lessons from my drummer at the time. His name was Del Bennett. And I looked at Del. I was like, hey, do you mind if Dylan plays a song? It's the hometown crowd. He's like, no, that's fine. So Dylan comes up on stage, and I said, well, what song do you want to play? He goes, let's do one of those Bandit Gypsy songs that you guys do. I'm like, okay. So I counted off Message to Love, and he nailed it. As a matter of fact, there's a video of it on YouTube somewhere. If you go Gregg Koch Message to Love, you'll see the actual incident that took place. And literally, it's the first time we ever played that song with him. And, you know, it's not an easy song, and he nailed it. So at that point, I knew that he was capable of being able to play the gig. And then a few years later, he just started doing the gigs. We had a band with, it was him and I, bass player by the name of Eric Hervey in town, and keyboard player named Theo Merriweather. And that was the nucleus of the band that ended up being on most of the Plays Well With Others record. And Dylan played on about half of that record, or I think most of it, actually. And then Dylan went to college. He went up to school for a while, studied music at a place. And then I started playing with my old band again, my original lineup, which was called Gregg Koch and the Tone Controls. The drummer, Gary, sings great and he plays great. And so we were doing that trio again. And then, you know, Dylan was kind of doing his own thing, you know, playing with different people. And he had hooked up with some younger musicians and they were doing some stuff. And he kept on going up to Minneapolis and doing gigs. And he would come home and he's like, man, you got to hear this organ player I've been playing with. And I'm like, yeah. Anyways, one thing led to another. And Toby, the organ player he was talking about, came into town. And I arranged an impromptu recording session. And once we played one song, we knew that that was a lineup of doom. And then that's when Dylan became, you know, Dylan and I started playing together all the time again. So,
Yes.
And that was 2017, I guess.
And it was the Koch Marshall trio.
Yes, correct. Yep. So Toby Lee Marshall, he plays the Hammond organ, and then he does bass with his left hand and with pedals. And he's a great bass player. I mean, his bass playing, you know, groove and note choice and all that kind of stuff is killer. And then he's a killer soloist and accompanist as well. So it's really a magical band. It's a cool thing.
Yes. Now, Mr. Koch, I'm begging you, please, could you play Spank It? Please.
Oh, I know I would, but I don't have my guitar here. I'm upstairs. Sorry about
That's okay.
that. If I would have known, I would have grabbed my guitar. But my room, our orange room where we do our live feeds and stuff, my son is completely revamping it because he got all these new microphones and he's got a new computer coming. So he wanted to take all the stuff out of the room and reconstruct his drum set, put all the mics up. He's got a new mic pre, he's getting it all set up. And so while we were going to do this interview, I had to run upstairs, and I'm actually in my bedroom, sequestered in the room of shame.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm joking. Mr. Koch, thank you so much for your attention, for this conversation. Thank you so much, man. I'm a huge fan, and you are very loved by blues rock lovers here in Brazil, man. Believe me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'd love to come down. One of these days, we'll make it happen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Koch.
My pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Meu irmão, simplesmente estávamos aqui. Agora, now I'm talking in Portuguese, please. If you're a foreigner, fuck you. But now I'm talking Portuguese. Ok. Caralho, a gente estava aqui com o Gregg Koch. O cara é simplesmente um monstro. O cara é um monstro. O cara é um monstro. O cara é um monstro. O cara toca demais, meu irmão. Se tu não conhece o trabalho dele, vê as lives do cara. Se tu não quer ver as lives do cara, vê na porra do Spotfy algum disco dele. Que o cara é foda, meu irmão. Steve Vai e o Joe Bonamassa já falaram que ele é o maior do mundo. Simplesmente isso. Sacou? Esqueci. Calma aí rapidinho, voltando aqui. O Alessandro Souza tá sempre aqui no Coluna Blues Rock. Ele pediu pra gente fazer um resumão, porque ele acabou de chegar. Eu faço. O Gregg Koch é foda. Ele falou de todas as influências dele. Ele falou que o pai era advogado e que o pai tinha um plano para ele seguir a carreira dele, mas ele quis ser guitarrista, mas ele tem essa coisa de ser uma coisa mais ética, no sentido de se você quer ser bom em algo, batalhe para isso e tal. Ele falou que as influências dele são Cream, Hendrix, toda aquela galera, e uma pegada mais blues, né? Mas eu também perguntei se ele também tinha uma pegada ou uma influência de jazz. Ele falou que sim, com certeza. Falou do Grant Green. Aí eu falei do Rassan Roland Kirk, ele falou que também. Ele falou muito do Lonnie Mac, que também gravou com Stevie Ray Vaughan. O que mais que ele falou? Deixa eu ver aqui. Ele falou das guitarras dele, que é uma Reverend Signature Gregg Koch. Falou que tirando as guitarras dele e do amp dele, né, e assinatura também, ele falou que ele gosta muito da Telecaster, o que é muito bacana também, né? E o que mais? Falou muita coisa, mas fazendo um resumão sobre isso. Hoje em dia ele toca com um trio, né? Que é o Koch Marshall Trio. O Alvin Lee também. Ele falou do Roy Buchanan. Obrigado, Dan. Muito obrigado. Enfim, é basicamente isso o que ele falou. Falou muita coisa e sempre com muito bom humor, né? O Gregg Koch, ele é marcado por esse bom humor dele. Enfim, daqui a pouquinho, se você ainda não conhece, se você ainda não sabe, todas as nossas lives são disponibilizadas no YouTube, Coluna Blues Rock 2.0. Tá lá, essa vai estar daqui a pouquinho, várias outras também. Então, tá lá no YouTube. Se você ainda não segue Coluna Blues Rock, siga Coluna Blues Rock. E daqui a pouquinho, 8 da noite, teremos um pocket show no perfil do Coluna Blues Rock de um duo do interior de São Paulo, uma menina, a Francine Soré e o Caian Zamboto, que tocam demais, são muito legais, são muito talentosos, vejam. Se você ainda não segue Coluna Blues Rock, pô, segue aí, cara. Tu vai ter boas notícias, novidades, boas postagens sobre o blues, sobre rock, sobre jazz, sobre a boa música, né? E eu espero que vocês, gente, estejam gostando do trabalho do Coluna Blues Rock. Nessa quarentena eu tenho me esforçado para que os músicos não fiquem, né, no ócio, não fiquem sem fazer nada, e para que nós, né, a gente não fique sem entretenimento, não fique sem aquele momento de curtição. Eu espero realmente que vocês tenham gostado. Tá aqui a Francine Soré falando. Obrigado, Francine. Cara, quem não conhece a Francine, ela é foda, cara. Francine, para quem escuta a guitarra dela, acha que é um cara gigantesco, todo grandão, grosseiro. E, pô, é uma menininha toda delicada, toca demais ela. Enio Vieira, valeu, Gão, tá foda. Valeu, Enio, você também é foda. Enio Vieira, guitarrista aqui do Rio de Janeiro. Aliás, Enio Vieira estará amanhã no especial Creedence Clearwater Revival. Eu fiz um mata-mata com várias bandas, uma contra as outras, só de bandas americanas. E quem ganhou foi o Creedence. Então amanhã teremos quase 3 horas de Creedence. E Enio Vieira, aqui do Rio de Janeiro, amigo meu de longa data, estará tocando alguns clássicos do Creedence. Valeu, Mari Sena, também está sempre curtindo aí Coluna Blues Rock. Dan, Band Blues, valeu, irmão. Obrigado pelo elogio. Tamo junto. Depois eu quero saber de onde você é, cara. Que eu te vejo sempre nas publicações, nas lives do Gregg Koch. Mas, galera, é isso aí. Se alguém quiser me xingar, só por favor, não xingue minha mãe, minha esposa e minha filha. E nem minha cachorrinha nova. Peguei ela há 3 dias, uma bebezinha. Então, por favor, não xinguem elas. Se quiser me xingar à vontade. E aquela parada, gente. Coluna Blues Rock é feito para vocês. Por vocês. Então, se vocês tiverem alguma crítica, alguma sugestão, podem mandar, que eu estou completamente aberto, cara. Sugestões de pauta. O Alessandro mesmo, ele já me sugeriu 2 ou 3 nomes que eu entrevistei aqui na Quarentena Sessions. Então é isso, gente. Muito obrigado. Porra, se você não viu a entrevista toda do Gregg Koch, ou se você viu, reveja, porque o cara dá uma aula de música e fiquem atentos, porque se não me engano, todo domingo ele está no Central Time Zone, que pega a meiuca ali do meio leste, na verdade, dos Estados Unidos. Se não me engano, é sempre domingo, 9 ou 10 da noite, que ele faz a live com o filho dele no quarto, né? É muito legal, bicho. Vejam, porque vocês, quem é guitarrista, quem gosta de música, quem gosta de rock, é uma aula. O que eu falei no início do vídeo. Eu conheci o Gregg Koch há mais ou menos um mês, no início da quarentena. Por acidente, eu cliquei para entrar na live dele. E quando eu vi aquela coisa ali, eu simplesmente fiz. E foi quando começou a minha admiração por ele, cara. Então, assim, recomendo. Vejam as lives do Gregg Koch. Escutem o trabalho do Gregg Koch, porque o cara é foda, galera. Bem, eu vou nessa. Muito obrigado. Para quem já viu aqui minhas outras entrevistas de inglês, quando eu bebo, meu inglês fica melhor. Então eu espero que nessa meu inglês tenha sido pelo menos aceitável. Muito obrigado, gente. Eu vou nessa. E lembrando que 8 horas tem Francine Soré, Kayan Zamboto. Eles vão fazer um duo de blues. Os caras, porra, mas que dupla, cara. Se o Coluna Blues Rock tiver dinheiro um dia, eu quero trazer o Gregg Koch para o Brasil, para o Rio de Janeiro, e trazer também a Francine Soré e Kayan Zamboto aqui para o Rio de Janeiro. Dan Band Blues, procurem as gigs do Greg com Eric Gales. Sim, vou procurar. Muito obrigado, Dan. Enio, hahaha. Alessandro, parabéns. E Maricena, hahaha. Gente, fui. 8 horas, estamos de volta aí. Eles vão estar no perfil do Coluna Blues Rock, eu vou estar em outro perfil, mas é isso, gente. Se alguém quiser mandar algum último recado aí, vou dar aquele momentinho do delay para chegar a mensagem aqui. Ou se alguém quiser entrar ao vivo aqui comigo, eu ainda tenho 4 minutos ao vivo. Se alguém quiser entrar, manda um eu, ou me chama, ou levanta a mãozinha. Bem, ninguém tem nenhuma pergunta, ninguém quer me chamar, ninguém quer entrar ao vivo, então valeu, gente, valeu, rapaziada. 8 horas, Francine Soré e Kayan Zamboto. Fui!